when your parents are trying to tell you who you are, when the world is trying to tell you who you are, how do you not believe them? Like, what feels true for me? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. I know, the title, oof. This video has been on my heart for the last 2 years, but I wanted to give myself enough time to clarify my message, to be respectful on the topic, but I also wanted to be transparent with you guys because this is something that really shaped my life and my story. This video isn't meant to influence you to either start going to church or to stop going to church, go on strike, all of that. No. So yeah, why I stopped going to church. I'm definitely someone who grew up in the church. Y'all know African parents, or at least African mothers. Primarily Christian churches, though I did go to a Catholic middle school, Catholic college, but I can say that I've always observed my mom and her relationship with God and reliance on God, that I think it definitely shaped my understanding of who God is. Certain things you witness as a kid and you're just kind of in awe of, or it really does teach you something. I actually think my most spiritual age range as a kid was like 6 to 10. I felt like I saw stuff. I totally believe in like spirits, I believe in energy, and believe in all of that stuff, but I think as a kid I felt very spiritually sensitive. And I think a lot of kids are like that. I think all kids are like that. She got really into the Jewish religion and the Jewish culture, and we went to like a Messianic Jewish church at one point where I met the best people, the best family that would always take me in. Shout out to the Boucher family. Then my mom had this desire to go to Israel, so she went 2 times before she took me, and I got baptized in the Jordan River. I think I was 9 or 10 years old. Around this time is when my dad left, like out of the country, and couldn't come back because of visa issues. And I think that in this time is where I saw my mom's reliance on God even greater. As I was getting older, like throughout middle school, I was definitely still going to church with my mom and just going to the churches that she wanted to go to because, like, what am I supposed to do? I can't drive, like. Which brings me to my next point. When I was a senior in high school, I was finally able to go to driver's ed and get my driver's license. I really wanted to take the initiative to find a new place that I could feel comfortable going as my church. Also, senior year of high school is when I had been living with my mom for about 2 years consecutively. I moved around a lot as a kid and I didn't really live with my parents. My mom was thinking of moving to Arizona. Now at this point, I'd heard my mom talk about moving to so many different places. I didn't think she was serious about this one. I knew how much she just wanted to just get away and start a new life somewhere and just like live for herself, which I can respect as an outsider looking in, like 25-year-old me. But at that time, I felt so lost and abandoned and alone during the crux of my senior year when I wish I could have just been excited about college. Instead, I was stressing over like, how am I gonna see my mama? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, I was trying to find healthy ways for me to deal with that frustration and that hurt. The place that made most sense to me was just going to God through church. I had a friend named Courtney and she would always offer rides. Like, she would just post on Twitter like, hey, I'm going to church. Hit me up if you want to ride. Like, it was just so cool. And so like I took her up on it one day and I really loved the church that we went to. Shout out to Pastor Dave and his family, as well as Pastor Tony and your family. I feel grateful because I know that my foundation of knowledge about God and where I stand with God was cultivated by your messages and your way of making me feel like family. So I am forever appreciative of that and of you. Yeah, I'm really thankful that being friends with Courtney and seeing her tweet at the time, like, brought me to that church. I'm sure you guys are probably so confused, like, what was wrong, girl? Like, it sounds like things were good. Yes, and they definitely were, and I'm grateful for that. My dilemma happened when I went to college, not because of the college, but because you're discovering who you are, you're discovering who you want to be, and you're also discovering like what you want to do with your life. It was just a really confusing time. Yes, I had so much fun there, but I think the conflict of Christian Binta versus Binta that was coming out at college, like I felt like there were some harsh lines on where things needed to be drawn, and I felt so confused and limited by that. At school, I felt the freedom to be myself, like the dancing, bubbly, active on campus type of gal. I definitely found my own organic ways to live out my faith and strengthen it while on campus. I met so many amazing people through Agape Latte. I love you guys for life. Father Ron, Steph McCaffrey, thank you guys so much. I forgot to mention that just by being myself in college, letting myself not feel bad for going out on Thursdays and getting drinks with my girls and having the permission to let your mind focus on music and having a good time, especially in school when things are just so chaotic. You've got due dates for everything. Like, I was also working throughout college, so it was just it was busy, but those were fun times for me. And not only were they fun, but in the club, surprisingly, is where people would come up to me because they saw one of my YouTube videos, or maybe they heard something at campus ministry and they were just coming up to me so we could like talk more about that in the clubs, in between, you know, getting my get it. Yes. In between those moments are where I would connect with people that like I wouldn't really talk to during the week, but like I saw them out, they saw me out, and they like approached me, and that is what let me know that it's okay for me to be myself. It's okay to have these like activities that I enjoy that might not fit the box of Christianity, but you know, at the end of the day, it's who I am. Those are the areas that I've been able to make such meaningful connections that there's no way I could feel bad about that. And I think that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. The ability to show love in different environments to people. Like, I think that's what this whole thing is all about. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I said that. The issue was always whenever I would go back home to church, and it's not like I felt like I was living a double life like on my Hannah Montana-ish, but I felt like I still wasn't fitting the mold of a Christian godly woman. Like, I just felt so, I don't know. During that time, I thought that feeling was conviction. So I was always at the altar. I was like, Lord, forgive me, I am a sinner. Those moments were definitely real and authentic for me because I felt that way, and I felt so much shame in who I was. I felt like I was just a disappointment, as sad as that sounds. Finding what I wanted to study and what I wanted to do after college were so complicated, but you guys should already know that. I have so many videos talking about just not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, but I really found my heart in English writing and mass communications. I talk so much about my education, but I really loved it so much, especially my psychology minor, because I've just always been a natural inquirer of why we do the things we do, why do we believe the things we do, and it's actually my education that helped me to start thinking about these questions for myself. And that really changed my life because I was able to learn what it means to be intentional and accountable to myself. For example, in college, did a lot of things that, you know, I learned a lot from. I would notice the after effects of some of my decisions, and if it was something that made me feel really bad, when you just know you shouldn't have done something and you almost feel like you went against yourself. I hated feeling that way, and so I made sure that my decisions would not make me feel that way again, aka I just stopped doing certain things. I was kind of on autopilot where I just wasn't really thinking of my decisions, but thankfully it was short-lived and I was able to check in with myself. This is also a time when I started going to therapy for the first time, and that's how I felt like I was honoring myself, by making intentional decisions because I was aware of the effects of my behaviors. My studies had a focus on me working to be a broadcast journalist. The goal was definitely e-news for a really long time. It was so cool that I was able to get experience in broadcast journalism through my TV club.
Welcome to ACTV News, your bi-weekly ACTV broadcast of news and updates from the Assumption College community. I'm Binta.
I loved being an anchor, reading the teleprompter on camera, like that was so fun. But I realized I wanted to use my voice for something else, not necessarily celebrity gossip. Like I wanted it to be more from me. Even though I had this new understanding, I didn't necessarily know what that would look like for me occupation-wise after college. At this point, I really started freaking out because the countdown to graduation was here. The pressure was on. I relied on church in general a lot because I wanted to make sure that what I was doing with my life was what I was meant to do with my life. Being this late teen, early 20-year-old, like seeking guidance, of course people were giving it to me and like letting me know what they thought I should be doing. And I think church really helped me find my gifts because I knew that I was drawn to encouraging people. But again, the hard part was figuring out, okay, what does that look like for me? In my church, a lot of people go to Bible college. And so I started thinking, wait, maybe I need to go to Bible college. Like I think maybe that's where the Lord is trying to guide me. This would be to get my master's. So I started exploring that, and in exploring that I had a lot of like positive reinforcement from everyone in the church because they felt like, oh yeah, Binta, you use your voice, this feels really right for you. And I don't fault them for that because they were just trying to help me nurture my gifts in the most obvious way possible. And even going to the Bible college and like visiting it, I really loved it and I connected with so many people and I really loved the idea of a really intentional study of words and communication, which at Bible college that would have looked like studying the Bible and ultimately preaching. So then I started believing that for myself, thinking that that's what God wanted me to do. Choosing to go to Bible college would mean adding more to my student loans. It would be, you know, a lot more difficult to find a full-time job for paying bills and perhaps an apartment. I was so conflicted. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be this conflicted. But it was in that time that I realized I didn't need to go to Bible college. I didn't need to be a pastor, a preacher. What I really have always wanted to do is have a YouTube channel where I'm able to talk about these things, these questions about life in a free space based on my own experience. I felt so sure of that I was happy to let it go. But just because I let it go internally doesn't mean I wasn't caught up by the pressures and the expectations of the people in church that really saw me doing that, like being a pastor, preacher. Even though I had really strong like pastors, I can't say that I haven't had spiritual advisors that like tried to assert their like way on my thinking and to influence me to doubt myself. I started feeling so much pressure and like unnecessary conviction, which I don't really like that word in the church because I think it's almost said as if whatever feeling of guilt you have, it's because you're doing something wrong. And I don't think that that's true all of the time because I think you can feel guilt when you're not living up to someone else's desire for you. And I think that is the struggle of life. When your parents are trying to tell you who you are, when the world is trying to tell you who you are, how do you not believe them? Like, how do you strengthen your inner voice so you can find out who you are, so you can learn about what you love? I spent so much time trying to fit this perfect mold of a Christian girl that I was literally stressing myself out. It was also a time where my identity as a Christian and like the label of Christian was getting to be more important to me than actually living it out. And I had some behaviors during this time that I hated. It was another thing that encouraged me to not be so fixated on a label and living up to this religious identity. Because at the end of the day, I'm a flawed human being. I make mistakes, and I am always working on something that I could do better at. It's not the label that I place on myself that determines my behavior. I determine my behavior. A lot of people love claiming the religious identity in areas of domination, and it's not everyone. I know that for a fact. I just got tired of letting people define what my relationship with God is. I refuse to believe that my life is supposed to look like someone else's. In making the decision to step away from church, I started having panic attacks. I felt so low and depressed because I felt like I was such a disappointment. I started taking my antidepressants at that time. I started feeling really hopeless about the future. Only a few people know this, but I was planning on moving to Nashville actually. I was obsessed with Nashville during this time, and I met so many great people. I had so many connections already in Nashville. And it just felt right. Like I wanted to just take that stance, that change. I got a job interview that I was getting ready to fly out for, but then I got sick. The kind of sick where I actually needed to see like a bunch of different specialists and doctors. It was a really scary time of being tested for bladder cancer, kidney cancer. I had surgery, like it was a whole thing. And it's just so crazy seeing the timing because I had to stay home in Providence when I was seeing all of these doctors. Like, who was I to travel when I'm being tested for all of these scary things? But it's ironic and amazing and beautiful that I happened to meet my boyfriend at this time who was so understanding on the situation. And now we're going to be together 4 years this July. Thankfully, after my surgery, I haven't had a scare since then, but it was ongoing for 2 months. That completely threw a wrench in all of my plans. Like I was like, oh, I'm about to start this new life in Nashville. God's like, psych, here's the love of your life, and by the way, you have to stay and take care of this. But I'm not like pressed about that. I think all of that needed to happen in order for me to stay and find something that I love doing. I just devoted my time and my energy into doing more of YouTube and learning new things so I could master my content and feel confident and proud in what I'm putting out. During this time, it had been like a year since I'd stopped going to church, and I was learning how to define my own morals and values for myself, not in spite of my Christian teachings, but with them, like using them as reference, knowing that, okay, I know that this is what Christians do, but what of that resonates with me? Like what feels true for me? And I started doing that without judgment, but it wasn't easy. So I just want to make that clear. Like this was a time where I was questioning all of my decisions and I wasn't even sure if I was doing the right thing. I was so preoccupied with right versus wrong, and I did not want to make a wrong decision. Like I didn't want to change the course of my life just because I wasn't giving it enough thought. I wanted to be intentional. I didn't want to feel like I was being influenced, and I just felt that everywhere. The pressures of society or what the news is trying to make me think. Which is why I've really spent the last few years being so detached from social media, because I feel like the extra chatter of the world clogs my natural tap is what comes to mind. Being able to step back from church helped me find my inner voice and to trust my intuition and to know that the decisions that I was making were thoughtful. During this time is when I had my entryway job into the marketing industry, which I talk a lot about in my life update video. That was a place that really allowed me to do what I love. I'm so appreciative of that. And because I was doing that so much and I was getting better and better at my skills, it made me want to do that bigger for like a bigger company's marketing department. Like I've said throughout this video, church is something that's really helped me understand and learn about who God is and where I stand with that, with Him, with all of this. Okay, my camera just died, but I was saying that church really taught me the importance of believing in a higher power and how to access that higher power in the world and within myself. So for that, I am forever grateful. But in order to find my voice and to discover the true desires of my heart, to learn about the things that make me happy and the things that make me find the quiet within myself, Even thinking about where I am now, I'm so grateful because I am working in a big company's marketing department, and it feels so cool to be a part of something that's so much bigger than myself, all because I've just been following what I love and what I believe to be my truth and just doing it in every way that I can. I get to create content on YouTube my own way. I get to go to work and be a part of something that challenges me. I'm even lessening how often I'm going to therapy, which is so huge because I've been going for a really long time, and I'm so proud of myself for doing so. Being able to look back and see all of the hard work I've done to not only heal from childhood traumas, the work I've done to feel proud of myself and to not feel shame about not being in church and not feel shame in listening to my gut. It's through that I've been able to grow this understanding of who I am and love that. I have to say, yoga has been so essential in helping me embrace that notion of being non-judgmental to myself. It's only going to strengthen that self-love that you feel and the love that you can give to other people. I definitely went through a period where I just couldn't even fathom the thought of going back, and I just felt so triggered every time I heard a pastor. But at the stage of life that I'm at right now, I definitely have a different relationship with the notion of church. Me and my boyfriend are looking into finding a new church or just finding a church to go to. I've been able to redefine my spirituality for myself, to learn the ways that I can have church in my everyday life, following my heart and showing love, remaining grateful. I don't think anyone should be made to feel bad for that. Anyways, I think that's it. Comment down below, what are the things that you do that bring you that feeling of connection to your higher power? What does that look like for you? Be intentional with your time, be intentional with your mind, be intentional with your love, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye, guys. I keep forgetting I have COVID, but we here.